just before we went live, it was raining real hard.
Yeah, I think as the Seattle team was coming out of their locker room, I think the first half got poured on and the second half was getting blinded by the sun. So conditions are changing very quickly out here. However, I would say Seattle Tempest and Oregon Soar are possibly two of the better prepared teams for those circumstances, considering what spring looks like in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I would say we've had pretty good weather luck here this season, here in Portland for these games. But as the season starts and in between those games, players are frequently practicing in just nastiness weather-wise. So, yeah, two teams that are familiar with swirly wind stadiums with on and off rain. So that will be certainly a big factor here today. But I imagine we'll see a little more composure when those weird forces hit them than we might otherwise in other matchups.
I definitely agree, and you hinted at this in your lovely introduction, but this is a really, really big game for both Soar and Tempest. A win for Tempest here means a clinch into the playoffs, and it actually would send Colorado Alpenglow into the playoffs as well officially. Yeah. However, like you said, do or die for Soar. If they can win this game, this keeps their playoff hopes alive, and Seattle is not officially in the playoffs yet.
Yes. If Soar were to go on and win today, they would still need some schedule stuff to go their way later today and tomorrow and next week. And both teams, all the teams in the league, still have one more game after this week. So a lot up in the air, but it is getting pretty narrow. And looks like Oregon is going to start on defense. Both teams missing some key contributors, but Oregon, unfortunately, had 3 players scratched today that they thought would be available as of last night. Sandrine Girard, Jackie Matonis, and Merle Hammond all unable to go after showing up today, all battling some different kinds of injuries and such. So it's going to be, from the jump, a tough go here for Oregon. They're going to have to make some changes right away. So can Seattle get off to a nice hot start? Cheryl Sue, one of the premier players in the league, is going to put the disc to ground right away, and suddenly Oregon has the start they're looking for. This is Alston, a speedy goal scorer. Tries to go up the line for Emily Posey, but just a bit out of reach. Seattle gets the ball back. Sue again. Finds Lee on the same side. Coming to the high side now. In the middle with Gemma Monk, having a nice season for this Tempest team. Pick in the middle of the field. Going to give Seattle their first chance to kind of take a breath and reorganize themselves as they're finding a slow start. In this game, nice bit of footwork on the sideline to keep that one in bounds. And the kind of offense here is a trend we've noticed, teams struggling to get past the level of the handlers against this Oregon defense. They can throw hucks, but can they gain these little 15-yarders? Again, another pretty good opening, but just a simple mistake. It's turnover number 2 for this Seattle O-line.
Yeah, a really long first point of the game so far. I think Soar is going to be happy with 2 opportunities here and are definitely going to need to show that they can put the disc away efficiently, especially with those late addition drops from the roster. These games are long and tiring, and 3 players down.
And some nice
will impact.
Yeah, nice little inside looks were working for Oregon, but Caitlin Rowland gets a finger on the disc and then puts it deep to Cheryl Sue, who found a breakout. In Seattle, after a long point, able to find the legs and the gas to push it in uncontested. That is the first goal there Yi-Sun Lee taking that one in from Cheryl Sue. It is 1-0 here. Seattle takes the lead.
Definitely an exciting first point. I liked Soar's defensive look. They looked a little bit switchy and poachy on the handler sets. And then downfield, I think for the most part, they were actually backing their offender, inviting them to take that underspace and trusting that those loose, switchy handler defenders were going to help muck up those throwing lanes. And I think it was effective. Seattle was pretty patient with it and unfortunately did have some turns, but ultimately, fought their way out of that point and had a little bit more legs at the end of it.
Already noticing, don't know if we caught on stream there, Oregon confused about just getting even a seventh body on the line there. I think more of just a unable to hear your coach mistake rather than any kind of weird availability-ness, but
could be.
Going to start here with Jelly Boyden, who led the world in throwing yards 2 weeks ago in the Soar's last game. Notably, though, Oregon without two of their big receivers from that game, but they do have Caitlin Fitzgerald, and all she does is make huge layout bids. This time it's on offense, as the Soar are in the red zone early. Pick downfield.
Fitz just doing what Fitz does. An exclamation to the start of the game.
A nice flip into the end zone there from Cami Lamont to Noelle Takahashi, who was one of 3 big goal scorers in the last home game here. That's Cami Lamont flipping over from the D-line this game, finding the assist. A couple D-line players having big impacts. That O point for Oregon Soar, they have a nice clean hold.
I like the confidence coming out of Soar in that play. Cami Lamont seeing the distance that Fitz has between herself and their defender and trusting and putting it out there, knowing that Fitz is going to put their body on the line to save that. And then also really nice movement immediately to the break side to put away a nice clean score. That's exactly what Soar needs to be doing this game.
Yeah, another trend we see here in this windy, swirly stadium. This team's really kind of getting stuck just going up one sideline each game. So developing that horizontal movement to generate better opportunities downfield. Oregon doing a nice job of it there. See if Seattle can do a little bit nicer of a job of it at this point. Not so fast as Ava Peterson, getting a nice run-through block.
And Ava Peterson is one of Oregon's players to watch this game, and you can obviously see why. They are a fierce defender, and they are just such a workhorse for this Oregon Soar team. And they also can do it on offense. I am sure you're going to see them come down with a crazy grab at some point in this game.
Speaking of Cami Lamont on the D-line, leading the charge here as they push it downfield to Sid Pearson. Has a decent look into the end zone for Caitlin Osborne, but just like that first D point, just a couple of feet too far out in front. Try and track if that's going to be the tricky sideline today, close to the camera here. Seattle, again after a turnover, is going to take a shot, and again, that is going to work. I'm going to keep eyes on Jamie Kaufman, who has the disc here. Has the best plus-minus in the league, I think, this season right now, although they have a quick turnover, and both teams now trading some turns. Here's rolling. Kaufman with a nice step through. Could have called the foul if they wanted, but the throw works, and the offense is clean, and Seattle, again after 2 turnovers on a no point, managed to hold on. And we have 3 holds here, 2-1 Seattle. Yeah, once again, I see some YouTube chat. If Seattle wins, they are in. If Seattle wins, Colorado is in. And if Oregon loses, they are fully out of the playoffs. And then if Oregon wins here, it will all come down to future games, I think all three teams' results will probably be in the mix for the final playoff standings. So we'll cross that messy bridge if we need to. Oregon back on offense, using the side stack that worked really well from them last game. You can see they're already with a couple 15-yard gains. Switching fields now. Going around the edge for Takahashi, who's going to get dunked on by her teammate Kaylin Fitzgerald. She'll take that poster every time. And that is some nice offense from Oregon. 5 or 6 throws, and they are in for the hold. Tie ball game.
You know, I think it's only fair. I thought that last point that Noelle Takahashi had scored, she almost stole that one from Fitz also in the area. So a little bit of payback there perhaps. But, yeah, once again, those two players putting lots of impact on this game very early on. And, again, the spacing and the movement from Soar is looking really, really beautiful.
Yeah, even with a couple of key cutters out, Rachel Egan and Katie Winterbottom, who both, stole the show in that last home game here, both out today. This Oregon offense not skipping a beat so far.
And I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but it is, in fact, raining here again. It looks actually decently heavy, but a little bit of sunshine in the background as well to make it interesting.
Yeah, honestly, you could play a point in the full rain. Next group could be playing in hot sunshine. There's no way to know what's going to happen next here. See if Seattle, even with the added rain, can continue to try to clean things up as they enter the Soar's half here. Fitzgerald on the D-line, nearly earning a block. And as Seattle tries to push around the edge, it's again a bit too far. That's been a tough throw for both teams now. Oregon Soar have a chance for a break. Alston finds a gap in the middle. Barnes now. Osborne. Posey's going to take a look. Alston has some separation. The disc just needs to keep up its pace, and it does. Beautifully weighted and angled. What a throw there, and Oregon suddenly has the first break of the game. They are up 3-2.
Soar is looking really, really great right now. Perhaps the best they're looking all season, which is exactly what you want. You need to peak at the right time, and this is definitely the right time. Now, that being said, I think something that you see from Seattle and have seen all season is that they're really, really a gritty team.
Yep.
I think they are known for a fast pace of offense that does have mistakes happen in them, but they're usually so excellent at gaining the ball back that they usually can get that next opportunity. So I don't really anticipate losing that first break to phase them that much. They're going to keep their heads in this, and I'm sure they're going to keep fighting, but we'll get to see how this O-line answers.
Yeah, and you don't get to the plus 50, it might be, point differential on the season that Seattle has without being able to score and get contributions up and down your roster.
That is an excellent point.
Seattle's going to take their first big shot of the game, and again, they find some separation, and the receiver sees it coming, although the sneaky block was almost there, and they're going to hear some boos from the crowd, and they love it. Seattle, with their first clean hold, I believe, of the game, they answer right back as they tie this up 3-3.
I think we're seeing a little fire out there from some players.
Yeah, the Portland-Seattle rivalry remains strong across all sports, as two Midwesterners here. I don't know if we have the correct perspective to understand it, but it runs blood deep here. I love it.
Yeah, that is a very good point. fun to observe.
It's fun to observe. I agree.
Being in the area. Now, that being said, I think Soar's defensive looks, for the most part, have been trying to back these players because Seattle is such a strong, deep game type of team. Maybe a little bit of a blown positioning there because I really think that Soar doesn't want Seattle to be able to take that immediate, early, deep look.
Right.
Which
Yeah, it
so
came
far.
on like the first throw almost, which, that tells you a little something. Jelly Boyden again from the blue line. Oregon clearing the low side for Takahashi. No continuation there, so they're going to flip the field. A nice grab there from Belier. Carves it up the sideline. Luke now. Into the middle. 20 yards to go here for Oregon. Seattle finally able to put the lid on downfield. And some nice pace generated is going to get them closer. It can be hard, though. And a stall called, which is going to surprise me with how quickly that came. But no contest from Takahashi, who is going to be able to make sure that doesn't result in another big huck after turnover from Seattle.
Yeah, we're seeing some really nice, intense defensive pressure coming from Seattle, especially downfield, one-on-one, and a little bit of looser handlers.
Yeah, and Luke was wide open and had some room to work downfield, but nice job by Seattle's Pearson to close that gap on the mark, force a tough angle on the throw. Not quite there for Oregon, so Seattle's going to have an 80-yard break chance here. And nice job getting out of the end zone and a little second-level chance there. Charlie Idey's going to take a shot downfield. Megan Louie is there, and the disc drops right into her lap. And Seattle strikes back to put this game back on serve. They are up 4-3.
Yeah, Seattle's deep game on the transition is really excellent. I was interested to see, with that turn being more of a dead disc, how they were going to do working it out of that coffin corner. But pretty much that immediate inside slice throw, move it over to the break side, and they seem very calm and in control in that situation. So I think they're in their very best when they're able to transition off of movement. But that was a really lovely example of, we can do it off of a dead disc too.
Yeah, and a near turnover there in the middle of the field, but nice heads-up play from the second cutter.
I think that was
come in and get the disc not intended for them, keep things moving.
I think that was Lauren Page.
Yeah.
Very good awareness to keep that ball live for Seattle Tempest.
This is an interesting spot for Oregon here, who, as we were talking about, are a little short on players here. So who they put out on the field after their O-line gets broken is going to be an interesting wrinkle for them. Two near run-through Ds here for Seattle, but Oregon keeping the ball alive, doing a nice job winning the battle on this open side. And almost a giveaway there. I don't know that Sylvie Barnes was quite ready for that one. And the disc catches some wind, pops up over the defender who had the read, and a nice play by Lauren Carr to sit underneath that. Great read by them, and that is an important hold for this Oregon group, kind of their second O-line, coming out and getting the job done.
Yeah, like you said, Lauren Carr, sometimes known as Casey, is one of our players to watch for Oregon this game. And something that one of their coaches said about them is that they are just an incredibly intelligent player and really, really fun to watch. And I think you could see that level of frisbee IQ, ability to read the disc as that disc went up, immediately recognizing how it popped, repositioning to make sure the defender couldn't get through it, and securing the score for Soar.
And I'll never not point out, mother of two. Always big props to our Oregon Soar mamas out here, of which there are plenty.
Absolutely.
Love having the families on the sideline, multiple generations here participating in and supporting Oregon women's sports. Seattle with the disc now. Oregon almost comes up with a nice poach block. But Seattle now 20 yards out already. They're looking to develop a rhythm here this game. And that is a nice rhythm to have here. Up the line, swing it, get it back, up the line. Nice pace, nice tempo. One of the cleaner points they have had. They're going to hold on to this 1-point lead.
I completely agree with you. That was really nice tempo from Seattle. Again, I think that Soar's game plan is generally to be a step behind these players, but in order for that to be successful, Soar needs to have a little bit more pressure coming from those marks or a little bit more help from those off-handler defenders to muck it up a little bit. Seattle made that look easy.
You will take any point that feels easy when you can here in the pro leagues with lower rosters, quicker points. Rain turn it on, rain turn it off.
Definitely. I think people who come from the traditional USAU club background often might look at this structure and go, oh, one game, that sounds so easy in comparison to the full weekend of Ultimate most players are used to, but we can attest these games are exhausting. Everything moves a little bit quicker, and you are just tired by the end of one of these games.
And Fitzgerald really liking the matchup downfield of Zoe Luke on Sabina Hartnett, but the mark does a nice job shutting that off. They take the look anyways. Can't quite get the touch they need, so now Seattle in their own end zone, but with the ball, can they get out of the danger zone here? This is the Oregon O-line that got broken last time they were on the field. Can they manage to earn the disc back this time? They might not earn it, but they will get it. Jelly Boyden is going to pick up already in Seattle territory. It's a nice break. And Lamont is open downfield, but creates kind of an inside angle that Jelly Boyden can't quite connect with. Once again, they are going to find themselves playing defense here at Seattle's on their own end line.
Yeah, and maybe we're feeling our first early instances of fatigue in this game at the end of this first quarter. I think it's been a pretty clean game so far, but definitely a few mistakes both sides in this point.
Seattle seeing the poach downfield, takes a chance to switch the fields back down to this low side again, and a tweener between the blind defender's arms. Charlie Eide had their head up, and they're just going to send it downfield. It's working so far. Here's Sid Pearson going to try to keep the momentum up, and she does. That is Lauren Page putting their fingerprints on this game early, and that is another break for Seattle. They now push this lead past being standard. They are up 6-4.
I'm still a little bit slack-jawed that that disc made it through Jelly Boyden, seemingly between their arm and their hip.
I think it was.
Which is wild, but good focus from Seattle to still secure that and then kind of strike. I suspect some of the Soar players thought that was a turn and maybe started shifting gears already, and Seattle was able to pedal to the metal there and put it away. Also an excellent throw from Sid Pearson into space. Sid, who is a former Oregon Soar player, so bit of a background for her in both of these teams now.
Yeah, and that strange catch into a hook from Charlie Eide, another familiar face to Oregon club players down here. So they've played club in Oregon the past couple summers and pro in Seattle, so friends with everybody here. Currently the enemy, though, as Soar takes the field again. Charlie Eide once again on the D line. Here's Carr, who has a gap downfield and a nice read from Kaylin Osborne, who finds herself in the end zone as well as with the disc just past a reaching Charlie Eide. And the buzzer, too, went off just before that throw went off. So that is going to do it here for the first quarter. A much-needed hold for Oregon. They are down, though. Seattle has a lead 6-5.
That is excellent gamesmanship from Soar.
Yeah.
I really liked seeing their calm as the time ran out, making sure that they got to keep possession through the remainder of that first quarter. And then Crater is our final player to watch for Oregon Soar. We've been able to talk about all three within the first quarter, and specifically about Crater. They make big plays in opportune times, and that absolutely was the case there. So way to secure another point on the board for coming into the second quarter.
It's a goal! Cala, es tuyo.
Welcome back to Portland, Oregon, where sometimes the sun shines, sometimes the clouds rain. Holding off for now as Seattle holds on to a 1-point lead. They are up one break right now. 2 breaks for them in that first quarter, just one for Oregon. Both teams stepping into different rhythms here, and not a ton of time in between quarters to make too many adjustments, although you get your first real huddle as a team. So see if anyone makes any changes here. Oregon's going to start on offense. See what Seattle brings.
Yeah, we had an extremely exciting first quarter. I think we saw both teams putting really intense pressure on, earning some blocks and converting some breaks.
Yep.
And we've got a pretty good crowd out here today as well. You're hearing a lot of cheers from the stands. The Oregon Soar home crowd has been awesome. And because there is a double header today with the UFA teams from Portland and Seattle, there's a lot of support in the crowd from players off those teams.
And a nice hand block here to disrupt this Oregon offense. This is the third time this Oregon O group has had a turnover in an O point. See if they can find a way to kind of scramble into person defense. They can't. Seattle is able to ping pong their way into the end zone relatively quickly. And suddenly this Oregon group realizes they've been struggling a little bit. That's the third break for Seattle in almost as many D points.
Yeah, I believe that was Antolin with the score. Really nice give-go movement off of that impressive hand block from Meg Manning, who has been having an incredible season with Tempest this year. I've really been, with every Seattle game I've caught, I've been really, really impressed with their play. They are just gritty, putting intense pressure everywhere and making really big plays on the offensive side as well. So definitely a player to keep an eye on here in this game today.
Yeah, one of the league leaders in goals, I believe, this season. So their hard work is paying off on the stat sheet, which always feels nice. Oregon trying to find their way back on the stat sheet, bringing out this second O group who scored last time they were on. I think we have an infraction here on the pull. So Oregon is going to walk it up a ways.
That must have either been a time infraction or an offsides violation. I'm not sure which.
A little fury play here to start things off. Seattle doing a nice job keeping the yardage to a minimum. Nice little around throw there. Suddenly Oregon 5 yards out. Torres. Cami Lamont takes the opportunity to fake the give go and come back to the break side. But Jesse Crowley's all over it. Lamont thinks that disc was in their hand, though. See what the result is here.
Yeah.
Looked pretty close.
I'm checking our camera to see if we're going to get a replay there. I was, from my perspective, a little bit surprised to see the foul call come up, but it looks like perhaps the observer did not have a perspective to rule on it, although it did look like that Crowley had sent the ruling to the observer. So in that case, it is going to be a contested foul going back to Lamont.
And tries to jump it in there, but back at the throw. Violation called. Lamont might have started that play a little too early here.
Yes, so something unique to the WUL is there is a pre-stall period where the players are able to move for, I believe, 4 seconds.
Something like that, yes.
But whoever has the disc cannot throw the disc before that 4 seconds is up, which it appears that was the violation call in that instance.
Yeah, and I can understand how challenging it must be to see someone be open but not be able to throw it yet. And we're going to continue with some oddities here as the turnover is thrown, but not before a coach uses their timeout whistle. So we have a timeout, Oregon. That disc will stay with Oregon back where Lamont was. And it looks like Oregon is going to use the opportunity to sub in 7 new players, their typical O group here.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what you need your coaches to do in that moment. Recognize that there's maybe a little bit too much chaos. Clearly it was read that I think that was Kaufman coming down with the block that didn't end up standing. Recognizing, okay, my players need a little bit more time here. Let's get some fresh legs out on the field. So good work, coaches, Oregon Soar.
Yeah, and this O group is going to need more nice opportunities to complete some passes here, as they have been broken the last 2 or 3 times they've been on the field, so they get to walk into something a little easier, although they will have to play against a fresh line of defenders who get to set up anywhere they want. So it's not going to be easy. Boyden goes for the round, and that one, we all agree, except for the Seattle crowd, was a foul. Seattle crowd, always a smart group, plotting themselves right in front of our field microphone. So if it sounds like it's a Seattle crowd here, they are represented, and they are putting in good work as, again, this Oregon group struggling to complete even the first pass here. Seattle with a break chance. And nearly a poach from Carr, but Seattle stays with it. They are in Oregon territory now, and trying to go to the one receiver locked in, but Takahashi does not give room to breathe. Oregon now, about 60 to go. Another little fury clear, but nothing too much generated until this gainer here to Carr. Luke now into the Seattle half. Oregon switching the field. Posey's going to try to keep it going. Takahashi, it's a nice job thinking that disc might pop over the intended receiver, and we have some confusion arm gestures over here from the Seattle defender. Maybe some contact as that disc popped over the two of them. Observer's going to tell us that there is no violation here. Disc will stay with Takahashi, who's going to try to go right away, but for the third time this point, Oregon doing something that they are not allowed to do. You can tell the kind of headspace they're in there, just trying to connect anything they can. It's been great composure from Seattle also throughout this point as they get another break chance here. Pearson. He's going to try. Just hit a simple swing, but disc might have slipped out of their hand there. So we have quite the point here. Every kind of way you can stop and talk about it. We're checking off the list here.
Yeah, you know, I'm getting kind of two different opinions of what Soar needs to do here. I think they look frazzled, and so part of me is like, y'all got to take a breath. You got to take a second and control it. But what I will say is anytime that they aren't moving the disc quickly and end up holding it in their hands for several seconds, I think Seattle is doing an excellent job of locking down the options. And then we've seen multiple high stall instances just like that one that's resulting in a turn. So I recognize I'm saying contrary things here, but there is both things happening. Soar needs to re-establish a sense of calm, but they also need to keep moving the ball fast.
Inside everyone, there are two wolves. And they're both howling.
Exactly.
And the Seattle coaches going to match Portland here, use a timeout of their own as they have the disc and many yards to go. So it wouldn't surprise me if the original 14 players who started this point several minutes ago find their way back onto the field.
Oh, yeah. Good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we've almost touched both end zones at this point. That's 2 timeouts. That's at least 3 turnovers aside. Going for a couple records here, maybe.
Yeah, a
Longest
good amount
point.
of clock has gone as well. We are just about 6 minutes left in this quarter. Again, I kind of said this earlier, but I want to reiterate it because I think it is such a strong point of Seattle's game. I think they have a awesome mentality of push hard and shake off mistakes quickly. They seem to have just maybe more grit than any of the teams I think I've seen, at least in the North Division for the WUL. So even though it's not like they're not making mistakes out here, like they've gotten some blocks earned against them, but I think we're seeing them continue to be gritty and push through, and I think that's something that this Soar team could try to adopt a little bit as well, because it's going to be a grind of a game.
Yeah, and you're not seeing the simple violations here from the Seattle team. They've just been maintain that sharpness
through
their grit. Rolling here, breaks out, has an open look, but some pressure on the mark. He's going to push that disc a bit outside. Once again, Oregon with their third group of this point back on offense. Posey. Take a free one to Pearson, who's going to try to punch through the middle of the field with a wonderful inside-out lefty backhand. Gets around and beyond the reach of Rolling, a great defender, and it's well read. Caitlin Osborne with their second, maybe third goal of this game. And I don't know when or where or how that point started, but Oregon has secured a goal. Seattle clings to a 1-point lead.
And that's excellent field vision from Sylvie Barnes, who put that throw up to Crater. Really nice recognition of the space that was there and trusting that Crater was going to go and get it, despite the pressure from an excellent defender like Caitlin Rowling, who put a good effort to get the block there. But Crater was able to secure it, which is bringing us to Seattle 7, Oregon 6. Continues to be a game.
Continues to be a game. Close in every way. Yeah, I felt like that point needed someone to take a shot. There were a lot of turns, and it was very long. And were any of the turnovers on Hucks in that point? I think maybe not.
So somebody
actually think
you're correct.
A little change of pace and works out.
Shocking, too, for two teams that do have really strong Huck games.
Yeah, and Oregon's going to change things up. What looked like a zone is turning into person here. Downfield and on the handlers. As they get Seattle out of their pull play action. Almost like a dominator with a lot of movement from the handlers, and the cutter's pretty deep.
Exactly what I was thinking as well. Which, on one hand, it's a gamble. You know, if a team has to move the disc multiple times, it could up the odds of a miscue. However, I don't know if I want to bet against Cheryl Sue in a dominator, personally speaking.
Yeah, they've proven they can dominate just about any defensive look throughout their years here.
Indeed.
Have the ball now.
Yeah. Throw Kaufman in there as well.
And typically what is a layup for Sue, just a bit behind defender on that inside look.
We'll give that one to the commentator's curse again.
We will. A lot of turnovers for us this year.
Sorry, Sue.
High stall reset there. Keeps Oregon's break chance alive. Carr needs to find a gap somewhere. Puts it over the top. A wonderful play there from Osborne, but the reset finds the ground, and Sue is not going to take any chances here. They are just going to put it where the point will end, and they find their target. That's Jamie Kaufman coming down with maybe their first stat of the game. A quiet start for them, but a wonderful catch there. And again, Seattle, that might be their third or fourth time connecting on a Huck just immediately after a turnover, which has really worked out against Soar this season, I am noticing. Just going fast and going big before anyone really knows what's going on. Great job by Seattle.
Yeah, exciting point for both teams. Crater coming down with a crazy grab over there.
Through contact.
Yeah, very impressive, but unfortunately, I think, was it Sue that cleaned that disc up for Seattle? Did Sue intercept that?
I think so.
And again, I think that is just exemplifies Sue and this Seattle team again, right? Like, they just came off of a mistake I'm sure they wanted back, but they went and earned it back, and Seattle is going to do that repeatedly.
Yeah, and this Oregon group wants to be doing the same, but for the first time, they're going to air it out. First throw, and Belier is a foot away from the end zone already after Jelly Boyden Huck. Luke now. Doorstep. Stall is rising. Just has to flip it up. Cannot find a receiver. Great recovery from Seattle to deny what looked like an easy score.
Yeah, that was great defense, and it was such a beautiful Huck from Jelly Boyden. Aired out to space to maybe a miscovered Haley Belier, but Seattle's going to answer.
Wow, and a ton of pace on that disc, and it finds the gap perfectly. Great retention bid downfield from Manning.
And there is an injury call from Manning, maybe from that really impressive layout catch, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the reset just comes a bit too quick. I believe I heard a timeout whistle as well. Or maybe that was just to note the sub. We'll
I'm not sure.
let people tell us what's going on there. But Rolling's going to come in for Manning.
Yeah, it appears that Manning is maybe holding their hand, so hopefully we'll see them back in here shortly. And
yeah,
I guess
confirmed timeout, yeah.
correct, there was a timeout call.
Yeah, as the clock ticks down under 3 minutes here, Oregon
I'm
is going to use their resources here.
Okay, so that was a Soar timeout
think it has
after
to
the turn had happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is interesting, an interesting look to what the coach might be thinking.
Yeah, there's a lot of field to go.
Yep.
I could see the coach's thoughts there of, we're still tight in this game and we're really deep in our side here. Let's get our offensive group out who's used to working at the full field.
Yep. Yeah, I don't even know if they made any subs here. Maybe one or two. But Takahashi and Boyden and Wen Torres are still out there, and Belier. Though I don't know if Barnes and Fitzgerald start at this point, but they are on the field right now.
We've got about 2.5 minutes left in this first half, so a lot of time.
Yeah, story of this game so far is this Oregon offense group unable to find their way into the end zone. They've done some nice things all over the board, but haven't put it all together in the same point in this second quarter yet. And commentators' curse remains undefeated. Quick turnover for Oregon. Seattle trying to quickly punch it in. And they do. They sneak up the sideline, and another break for Seattle. They have found some momentum here. In quarter number 2, they extend their lead to the largest yet. They are up 9-6.
That was good capitalization on an uncharacteristic error from the Soar handlers there. But something I did want to note, I was noticing on my stat sheet here, the first quarter, I believe we had, 11 goals in total.
Mm-hmm.
The score ended 6-5 with Seattle leading. But so far in the second quarter, we only have 4 points, 3 of them going Seattle's way. So I think that this quarter specifically, I think both teams really stepped up their defense, and it's really slowed down the heavy scoring we saw in that first quarter.
Yeah, maybe one clean, quick point for a Seattle O-line early on this quarter, but most points have involved, if not one turnover, just much slower progressions here. Oregon now bringing their second O group out. Going back to this side stack. It does a nice job creating that space. But that's the connection right there that they have been struggling to find. And Posey's going to take a look into the end zone, and it's just a bit too heavy for Takahashi. The closest look yet for this Oregon offense this quarter, but once again, they find themselves playing defense.
Seattle has the full field to work here, and they send up a huck, which again, they love to do. A lot of players in the area. And that's Sylvie Barnes coming down with the block.
Yeah, Sun Lee had steps on their defender, but the disc slows down and allows a bunch of other players to get involved. And Sylvie Barnes is tough to beat out in space. No one beats her there. Oregon now looking for their first hold in a bit.
Soar's offense looks a little chaotic to me right now. I guess we're running a bit of a side stack here.
Lamont waiting for someone to use the big space they find in front of them. And a great job there from Ava Peterson to find it, and they are going to float one in to the block getter, Sylvie Barnes, for the bookends. And that is the first goal in a while for Oregon to try to claw their way back. They are down 9-7.
WUL game this season on the Western Ultimate League YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. That's Western Ultimate League on YouTube.
Yeah, great run there. Ava Peterson from behind the disc gets out in front for the completion from Lamont. More good work from Barnes. to run hard. Put the capper on.
Yeah, I think Oregon is doing a nice job of knowing what Seattle wants to do if they do get the opportunity. If they earn a block, they want to huck it. They're really good at doing that. But
Yep.
like we talked about there were multiple players in the area, and they were able to secure the block and get the ball back, which is impressive to do against this Seattle team, which has been pretty dominant in the Northern Division this season.
Yeah, just one loss for them so far against San Diego. A lot of big wins otherwise. Here's a big win looking play. So they are going to try to cross the field. Jamie Kaufman trying to just drop a dime. But that one loses its shape and tails out of bounds. And we have our first Oregon break chance in a while, but they are in the corner. And before we try to decide what just happened, I think a foul may be called,
But
and maybe
rescinded.
not. And suddenly Seattle has the disc in that same corner they just tried to throw it in. And that has been the story of this quarter for Oregon.
Wow. That was Gemma Monk. Awesome defensive pressure, was able to get a tip on that disc.
Yeah.
And then, maybe that was a little strategic, push it deeper in the end zone, get that Callahan opportunity, and absolutely capitalize on it. Wow.
That might have been the highest a disc has ever gone that resulted in a Callahan. That thing took off up into the wind.
Oh, man. Which, again, I think this is why Seattle is so big
Yeah.
on their deep game, which that might sound counterintuitive
Sure.
here, but I think that they're so excellent at putting on really, really intense pressure that they're okay with not being successful on a deep
Totally.
look because they're getting that field positioning. And then, ideally, they just have a short field to go. Or don't
Or-
even have to play offense. Just get a Callahan.
Okay, can Oregon bounce back? After some strangeness goes on, they cannot yet, as Seattle gets the immediate hand block. Drea Baroma is going to earn the disc for Seattle, and they are going to use their last timeout of the half. Bring on some new players, and with a couple of seconds left on the clock, Seattle is going to look to, first of all, complete a single pass, which will mean the quarter will end with them having the disc.
Really
and also
exciting.
it would be a cherry on top to score an 11th goal here
Definitely.
before
I think
halftime.
there is something mentally about seeing an 11-7 score
Totally.
versus a 10-7. That would really put some oomph and emphasis going into this second half against Soar. But that being said, again, going back to that hand block Drea Baroma had, they're another player that I've personally just been really impressed by watching this season. I think they are such a fiery, exciting player, making plays left and right.
Definitely.
And I think that, I don't know this for sure, but I get the sense that Seattle really looks to them to turn up that dial for them and lead with excitement and playmaking and encourage the rest of them to do that as well. So I'm interested to see if we see a bit more D's coming out after something like that.
So a couple of changes for Oregon here. Same with Seattle after that timeout. Some substitutions made. And that completion should take us to the buzzer, which sounds now. So Seattle now, this will be the last possession of the game. And I think more frequently than not, the first pass after the buzzer is dropped. Little Bob turnover. Lucky break there for Oregon. Who's going to need some more lucky breaks to climb back into this one. But Seattle, after one of the longer points we've ever seen to start this period, just find ways to win on the margins, and they find themselves with a 3-point lead heading into halftime. Danny, what was that? What just happened?
A lot of excitement, honestly. I think I'm excited to see what both teams pull out in the second half, and we are going to cut to a short break here. So we'll see you then.
It's a goal! Calavera es tuyo.
Actually, let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine and a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement needs to be. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
down in the car. One time give it all. Bust it open hard. Let me see you drop. Get down in the car. One time give it all. Bust it open hard. Let me see you drop. I fucked up this hustle, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. I fucked up this hustle, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. What is my guys? Know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
Planning your club season? Come to Ski Town, August 15th and 16th in Salt Lake City. There will be a women's, mixed, and open division. We are now accepting bids, and scan the QR code on the screen or email skitownclassic@gmail.com for more information. We'll see you at Ski Town.
It is championship weekend in the Western Ultimate League. Covered and What a grab! And
Miriam?
oh my God!
Grab from Chung, and as Chang launches to Stetmeyer for a goal. And a blazing
Into the end zone, and it's a layout grab.
Up for Milner.
Wow! Oh my goodness, Leah. That was a dime ball.
It's a goal!
Cala, es tuyo.
Creatine is only for extreme athletes who eat dominance.
Actually, let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine and a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement is to be. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
Hello and welcome back to Portland, Oregon, where the Seattle Tempest are visiting. They find themselves with a 3-point lead here. They are up 10-7. Once again, let's talk about the stakes at play here in this game. If Oregon wants to make the playoffs this season, they have to win this game. If they lose, they are out.
Correct. And to just clarify as well, if they win, they are not automatically in.
Yes.
I believe they would have to win another game, and possibly some other weird point differentials and things may need to happen. But it keeps their playoff berth alive if they pull out a win here.
Yeah, and if any Alpenglow investors are watching, Colorado, too, wouldn't be automatically in the playoffs if Oregon loses here. Oregon is the lone threat trying to nip at the heels of Seattle and Colorado for that first or second playoff spot. So big implications here. Seattle find themselves ahead, although I'm not sure either team would consider that first half as successful as anyone would hope for.
Well, it was definitely exciting, and
Definitely.
exactly like you were saying, I think this might be the most Colorado fans of Seattle we've ever had. Sound off in the live stream chat if you're from Colorado and here and cheering for Seattle, because yes, exactly. If Seattle wins this game, they clinch the playoffs for both themselves and for Colorado. So maybe double the support here this game on the Seattle side.
Yeah, always nice to be at home watching other teams do the work for you. Colorado also with a game this weekend. Their fate is certainly in their own hands as well. They've had a nice season.
Definitely. Colorado is second in the Northern Division with head-to-head wins over Soar at this point, I believe twice.
Yep. And Seattle going to start this game, this half, on offense. And some confusion from a pick downfield leads to some momentum stopping, but the throw goes up, does not find a receiver, so that is a turnover.
Well, we need to give some credit here. I think that was a hand block from Posey.
Oh, let's give that credit there then. So Oregon forced to a high stall and a wonderful read there to turn to the second option, but it might have been too late. We have a stall called back on the throw when Torres, guarded by Cheryl Sue. I think I see a no contest coming. So Seattle able to put the clamps on and get that disc back, and they're going to look to strike right away.
Wow, I was going to say that personally felt fast, but again, just a reminder to everyone, it is a shortened stall in the WL. It is 7 seconds, and that 7 seconds can go really quickly sometimes.
Yeah, 2 stalls this game, both going against the Soar, both early in the halves. One right in the first quarter and one again here. And that is going to lead to a dirty hold for Seattle. They're going to maintain this lead in Oregon. One more point farther from elimination here. They're going to have to start putting something together, and it's this group that's going to have to do it.
Yeah, and again, I think, we talked about it earlier. Hopefully Soar is coming out of this half a little bit more composed. But again, I really think they've got to keep moving the ball quickly. Seattle's defense is smothering whenever the disc stays in the same location for too long.
Yeah, they continue their high spirit and high pace that we talked a lot about in the first half. They just simply seem unfazed when things don't go their way, which is a tremendous trait to have in this fast-paced pro league.
Definitely, but Soar shouldn't be mad about that immediate hand block coming out of halftime. I think I'd love to know what the coaches said to them in their locker room, but I think they're coming out the right way.
Already some nice pull cover from Seattle. Means Oregon can't even center the disc easily, and their first throw floats over the receiver, and suddenly Seattle is going to try to keep their first half pace going, but they hand it right back. Oregon going to take this opportunity to chill out a bit, start from a nice shape. Lauren Carr here picking up on the sideline. Bit of a poach or just a miscommunication on defense. Let's Oregon move horizontally here. They are happy, Seattle, to let Oregon take these free resets. Nice catch through contact there from Fitzgerald. Some bumping in the middle of the field.
I also thought I heard a whistle,
Yeah,
a timeout whistle,
something.
but maybe not. No one else is
chirping out
reacting
there,
that way,
right.
so I think I am wrong. Sorry for pointing that out.
Carr now in the middle. Swing to Luke. 10 yards for Takahashi. Seattle locked in. A nice little juke from Boyden downfield. Creates the gap from Charlie Idy, and the continue to Takahashi is pure, and Oregon gets their first hold in a while here. They're going to keep this lead at 3 here for Seattle.
Yeah, nice defense from Seattle. They definitely made that difficult for Soar, but good patience from Soar to find the open player and make it happen. I also do want to point out, I noticed Meg Manning back on the field, so glad to see them returning from their earlier injury call.
Yeah, hopefully just a little tweak or a shock of something. They look like they're mostly moving fine, but did take themselves out. Also saw a lot of Jelly Boyden looking at and moving and holding her own offhand in the first half. Seems like she's good enough to keep going here. She
I
gets a goal there.
absolutely noticed that too with Jelly. Had a great juke cut upfield to get some space open and eventually find the goal. And speaking of our moms on Soar, Jelly is one of them, another mom of 2. So we love our moms here on Oregon Soar.
Yeah, 2 seems to be the lucky number here for all you family planners out there. Seattle.
That was a nice save from just Spalding. Way to keep the ball alive.
Just like Seattle's defense, Oregon's kind of given a cushion here for handlers to keep the ball moving. But we've broken out here. Seattle gets past that first group. Got about 24 yards here to go. Spalding. Gonna try to create some nice angles with Sue. Some continued space eating here from Oregon defenders, leading to a lot of sideways passes here. Seattle struggling to get past. This little blue line on the field, inching closer now. On the front line, rolling. Nice patience there, using every second of these shorter stalls, and some contact there on the reset. Cheryl Sue's going to call the foul as that disc sails by.
Yeah, I didn't quite see what happened there, but
Same.
it makes, the way Sue fell, it kind of makes me think it was a bit of a foot tangle, which is hard to not rule as a foul.
Agreed,
However, it appears that our observers maybe are not making a ruling on that one, so the disc is going to go back to Kaufman. I don't know what the stall is coming in at.
Body language says pretty low.
Oh.
And maybe a contact call as there was a bump on the mark. And then I also think I might have heard a whistle. But Oregon fans are pumping their hands up.
Yeah, that was confusing. Okay, so I believe that is no goal. It did. I really thought Fitz was calling a foul on the mark there, but
Right.
I could be wrong. I also think it's still Seattle's disc.
I think so too. Yeah, based on where they put the disc and how the players are orienting themselves.
Yeah, Zoe Luke with the awesome effort for the layout block there. Didn't quite come up with it, but it is again going to go back. Really impressive defense from Soar. Quite the goal line stand. Seattle has had the disc there for quite some time now and has not yet found that window into the end zone, I guess prior to the timeout call that went up. But yeah, they're out here working. They're making this challenging.
Yeah, reminiscent of that second quarter point that took so much time off the clock. A lot of red zone offense with a lot of stoppages and no goals. Hopefully this point.
I do want to point out something. I don't think our camera's going to see it, but on the left side of your screen right now, we have 2 Seattle players standing literally side by side.
Hip to hip, yeah. Like an NFL wide receiver combo. But on the other side of the field where the disc is, Seattle finds a little pocket in the front quarter, and unlike that devastatingly long point in the second quarter, Seattle is going to end this one after some confusion and a timeout. They get a hold, and they're going to keep their lead right where it is at 4.
Yeah, as a coach, I'm sure you always kind of hate whenever you decide to make that timeout call and your team manages to do the right thing or make the score or whatever. But still, that being said, I do think that was a nice use of timeout by Tempest. Like we mentioned, Oregon had held them there for quite some time, possibly sensing some impatience from those players. I think it's still a good call from those Seattle coaches.
As Seattle pulls here, I'm taking a look behind the camera where a little cloud system is forming. Looks like it might be on its way over here. Keep our eyes on the skies here as some more rain might be heading our way. Oregon here on offense, trying to establish a rhythm that has eluded them since that first quarter. Carr now. That is the cutter connection they've struggled to make. Just the timing seems a little askew for them. Takahashi going to take a look for her partner Zoe Luke. Downfield. And a foul call, I believe, by Luke. It seemed to me, from my very specific point of view, that Louis had a nice inside position there, although I can't tell if they were maybe trailing and maybe created contact when they were going up to make that play. We'll have to see.
All right. The ruling was sent to the observer, and the observer ruled it was not a foul. So Seattle is going to be picking up the disc here with a full 80 yards to go.
A nice play there to not let Oregon get out of here too quickly with a score. See if Seattle can at least push it downfield. Charlie Eide thought about it. Seattle happy to play it slow here. Takahashi giving it a chance. Inch by inch, Seattle is gaining yards, and a nice play to both toe the line and get the disc, but doesn't quite have the length there.
Yeah, that was really good effort from Lauren Page, which is one of our players to watch for Seattle. The thoughts from their coach was that they are often tasked to take on the toughest matchup of the other team, and they were guarding Caitlin Fitzgerald here, which I would argue is probably arguably one of the toughest matchups on Soar. But whenever they get to play offense on the other side, they still play fearlessly against these excellent players and make big impacts on the field.
Yeah, and Oregon just not quite the right touch on a throw. Puts it in the turf. Seattle, once again, marching it up the field. About 5 yards to go. Boyden with a nice backside read. Is going to get the standing block, but Seattle wonders if there was too much contact. They're going to decide there was not.
Yeah, I understand the thought process.
Yes.
It almost seemed like they were prohibited from being able
Totally.
to jump in the air. But, either way.
Yeah. If nobody jumps, can it be a foul?
Yeah,
It's a
but,
question for viewers
Crowley
at
thought
home.
otherwise about it and rescinded. But I understand the thought process.
Agreed, yeah. And props to them for coming to what seems like the right conclusion eventually. Here's Lamont, who's had a couple of the bigger throws for Oregon. Luke is going to reach downfield for Belier, but once again, it just can't find the right alleyway.
I wonder with this storm we're kind of eyeing rolling in, if it's maybe getting a little
Sure.
windier. I feel like the execution this point so far
Yeah.
has been different than the rest of the game. Or it could just be fatigue.
And Belier, using all the gas they have left in the tank, secures a block. And they are going to take themselves off the field after that one. Great job by them, as all the players on the field have hands on hips or knees, try to find some oxygen for themselves.
Yeah, I think this small roster, again, whenever you have a game at home, usually that's not the case. You have your fullest roster to the whole extent, but with those last minute drops that the Soar roster had,
Yep.
I think fatigue could be a bigger factor than you would want at a home game for Soar.
Yeah, and off screen, Caitlin Rowling's going to step in for Seattle. Going to match the substitutions, but Oregon's going to decide to take a timeout, do full substitutions here, get a fresh 7 on the field as they are battling for every score. They are down 8-12, and they need this win to make the playoffs.
And I was shocked when I just glanced at the clock. We are 2 minutes and 20 seconds left here in the third quarter, and we have had 3 goals so far in that quarter. So again, just intense defensive pressure coming from both of these teams. It's a battle out here for sure.
Yeah, and with a limited roster size, limited clock, and a gap to close here on the scoreboard, Oregon's going to have to pick up the pace, pick up the level of attack. They're going to have to crank things up somehow with a limited number of players available, which is tough. A lot of things converging quickly here for them.
Definitely. We are at the point that every single point is incredibly important to keeping that playoff berth alive for Oregon Soar.
Yeah, they both have to win at the margins, but also come up with some big plays here, which can be a little tricky for the team in the lead sometimes as well, as they might lean into clock usage or some trickery too early or too harshly. Seattle hopefully just keeps playing the game they've been playing.
Yeah. Seattle came out of that dead disc with a poachy handler set and a bracket downfield on both the the foreside and the break side. And they come up with the block.
And for the manyth time at this game, they immediately pick up and push it towards the end zone, and they get a quick score, and that is a critical one. It's after an Oregon timeout. Imagine Oregon brings in fresh legs. That's one of the strongest tools they have left available in this game. And Seattle just immediately turns it around on them, and they get to their largest lead of the game. Portland down a timeout, down another point, under 2 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, that hurts to not be able to capitalize on that timeout usage, especially, again, time is just ticking away in this game, and every point is really mattering here. So I think we could maybe see the disappointment a little bit in some of the Soar players' body language.
Yep.
But it's not over. There's a lot of game left, but they definitely need to clean it up a little bit. But that being said, for Seattle, that was their first break of the second half. I'm sure they're going to come out here looking to do it immediately again.
Yeah, can Oregon not let any small cut turn into a big bleed here?
Once again, Seattle coming out with a zone, actually maybe the first pure zone we've seen of the day. We're looking at a 3-3-1, 3 people up in the front area defending the handlers. There's about 3 people in the middle space and 1 deep. And the deep Haley Kaufman comes up with a block.
Yeah, they break past the first 1 or 2 walls there, but trying to get that throw back around through the middle to the outside player is just a tough little shape to put out. Seattle does a nice job securing the block, and they are back into Oregon territory, tiptoeing the line there. And a really nice play out into space and a nice read from Crowley.
Something I noticed Seattle starting to do in the second quarter is I think they recognize that Soar is putting fairly tight defense on the first handler reset, but the second reset is often sitting into lanes. So instead of trying to get open and move the ball to that first reset, they're often just skipping them and going over to that second reset. And I think it's really enlivened their offense. They're scoring more efficiently here because of that, a little adjustment.
And the break train has officially left the station. That's 2 in a row for Seattle. They are pushing the lead up as they try to secure themselves a playoff spot. Oregon here against the ropes.
Definitely. I'm interested to see, too, both of those breaks came off the success of either a junk or zone look. It seems like Soar is struggling a bit more against that as opposed to a pure person defensive look. I think if I'm Seattle here, I'm probably going to throw another one and see, challenge Soar to figure it out.
Yeah, zone also frequently slows the pace down a little bit, which would be a boon to Seattle's outlook here.
Excellent point, yeah.
22 seconds left on the clock. Another pivotal moment here. Can Oregon score? First of all, that's goal one. But goal two, can you make sure this quarter ends without another Seattle score here? Boyden. The side stack is going to leave some space over the top. Boyden's going to go for it. And Belier has the positioning, but the disc goes right off her fingertips, and Oregon just cannot catch a break.
And we just heard the quarter horde here, so that was excellent timing for Seattle. They got possession just before the time's out, giving them the chance to have a score, but unfortunately they do not convert. And with that being said, we now are going to highlight the Discraft play of the game back in the second quarter with that Callahan. Again, here we see the replay. Excellent pressure defense. Again, tipped that disc on the swing into the end zone and came down with the ball there. Again, you can see it.
Yeah.
That was, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't see the player's number there. Bobby, do you recall who that was with the Callahan?
I don't. Maybe Louis, maybe 73. I'm sure. But that was, the moment when we knew something was flipping. The script was kind of changing in this game as it was still close. But that was just a gut punch that Oregon has continued not to recover from so far. Can they do it in the fourth quarter? They have one quarter left to try to secure a chance at the playoffs. Can they go on a run here? Can Seattle hold on? We will let you know back in just a minute. Welcome to the fourth quarter here in Portland. The visiting Seattle Tempest have what feels like a pretty cozy, comfortable lead in this playoff deciding match here in the Pacific Northwest. They are going to start this quarter on defense. It has been all Seattle since about 1 or 2 minutes into the second quarter. They have done it all sorts of ways here, and Oregon is trying to do it any sort of way on the other end.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and forgive me if I'm wrong, this is from my memory, but I think this game has really mirrored Soar and Tempest earlier matchup in this season. From my memory, the first half was fairly even, and the third quarter, for whatever reason it is, coming out of that halftime huddle, Tempest just absolutely dominated the third quarter and kind of made an insurmountable lead against Soar. Now, I wouldn't call this insurmountable, but
Agreed.
It's definitely going to be challenging.
Yeah, and they keep the challenges up here by throwing a roller pole into a little trap zone, and the edge of the cup here, I think, might have stepped on someone's ankle, but number 11 here, Amy Wynn, is going to take a sub for Seattle. Nina Finley stepping into their place.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm seeing Wynn's shoe coming off and a bit of a massage. I'm sure all of the Ultimate players watching the game have been in that position that someone just stomps on your foot.
Oregon keeping it alive down this trap side. Can they break out of it, though? There is a small window, but it closes quickly. 2 Seattle players in the way, but Siona Antolin is going to step through with the block there.
Yeah, we're, again, haven't seen Soar quite figure out this Seattle zone defense just yet. I'm sure Soar is wishing they started throwing these looks earlier in the game. It's been really, really effective.
Yeah, and
Wow.
Seattle has to go over a defender. It's blocked, but not quite well enough. The wind and the spin keep it going. Seattle holds on.
Yeah, and that's the second time this game that I'm saying Spalding specifically is the one who kept the ball alive, doing a really nice job for the Tempest.
Yeah.
And I'm, again, so sorry, commentators curse.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a miscommunication there between the Tempest players, and Soar is going to get another chance.
Nice little fake the reset, turn it upfield. There's been a couple of those just to go past the intended target, but someone in the second level comes up with it. But once again, Stahl rising high on almost every Oregon throw. Takahashi is going to take a look, and that disc bounces perfectly in the wind. Great amount of spin on that backhand from Takahashi. Finds Luke, who has a nice read on it. It's the first score for Oregon in quite a while, and they need it. They are down 14-9.
Yeah, the Soar only scored once in the third quarter, so I'm sure that feels good to get the first goal in this fourth quarter, hopefully change their tempo a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least those middle two quarters started out pretty clean and quick and then really hit a wall around the third or fourth or fifth point. Oregon hoping that is not the case here, as they need to keep things moving pretty quickly, which is why I think we saw that Boyden kind of crossfield shot out of the zone and that Takahashi throw.
That's a good point. Yeah, you know, in zone, oftentimes your coaches might be saying, be patient, you know, take the open look, because oftentimes it is there. But add that clock element in, and that changes your approach significantly.
Seattle's offense back on the field. I don't think they're going to change their approach significantly here.
I don't think so either. And once again, I think we're seeing those downfield cutters push out a little bit, let these really capable handlers run a little bit of a dominator until that opening happens.
Yeah, and I'll give credit to the Seattle cutters. It's one of the most active sets of cutters I've seen in what is probably a dominator. But dominator does not work out this time. Sue with another turnover, and Oregon's going to take a quick look, and they find the right gap, and it gets into the end zone, but for the fourth or fifth time this game, it's just a couple of steps too far out in front.
Yeah, I was going to point that out too, specifically in that end zone. Soar has repeatedly overshot their receivers. I would really like to see them make an adjustment and be able to capitalize on that opportunity.
Seattle now with a lot of room to go, but with each completed pass, scoring becomes less important, and just one more completion is a couple more ticks off the clock. But turnovers are going to hurt, because Oregon has still got some juice left. They get a break, their first in a while, and they're going to chip into that lead. It's down to 4.
Yeah, that is Soar's only second break of the game, the first of which happened in the first few points of the game. So love to see them out here working hard and still pushing, despite, like we talked about, a tough lead and gap to make up here, but they're not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, and their first chance to gain some momentum, some energy. The crowd's getting into it here.
Definitely.
They've been looking for something to give them a boost. They might have just found it.
Yeah, and again, that was Crater with the score. An excellent catch. Definitely a difficult grab. They are all over the stat line for this game, and I think giving their teammates the boost to keep working.
Yeah, they've been involved in around half of the goals, at least, for Oregon here today, and a couple of nice defensive plays as well. with some very notable absences for the Soar. Players like Osborne stepping into those roles, making impact here. They're going to need another impact player here as Osborne takes his D point off. Some loose handler defense here. Seattle is going to take these swings very happily. And player down in the middle of the field, but no injury called after people thought kind of waiting for it. So Seattle keeps trucking. They're going to try to give go up the sideline. It floats just long enough for Cami Lamont to get the backside run through block, and got a little worried there that some bodies were going to collide, but
yeah,
clean.
I was going to apologize to our listeners for the gasp I just gave, but excellent vision from Lamont, as well as keeping that really, really clean.
Yep.
I didn't see any contact there. Great block. And another good use of a timeout here from the Soar coaches. They've got the full field to go, and that is a D line that's out there, so I think they're going to get this O line in. Yep. And let them work.
I think that's their last timeout of this half. Seattle, I believe, has one in the bank if they need to use it. So Oregon, using all the tools they have available to them. They have the time left.
Yeah, a little over 7 minutes left in this fourth quarter. And only 4 points down now. They've already made up a third of the space they needed to go coming into this final quarter. Excellent start to the last part of this game and keeping their hopes alive.
Yeah, I always want to say, like, you know, they've only scored 8 points until the fourth quarter. Can they really score 70% of what they've scored in 3 quarters and one? And yeah, absolutely. Why not? There's no reason that can't happen. I always feel like that matters, but honestly, things can change on a dime.
The statistics are interesting for sure. So once again, Seattle looks to be in a little bit of a junky situation, more so on the handlers. Downfield is a bit more true person.
And what a bid again, the second cutter going for it comes up with the play. Belier, who we last saw making a wonderful block, keeps the disc alive, and it's once again going to have to be something crazy. And the crazy train keeps on going. Belier again cannot be stopped. Oregon managing to get into the Seattle red zone. And Posey has an alleyway, but there's a ton of wind and nearly a defensive block into the receiver.
However,
maybe Takahashi might be thinking there's a foul here. And foul, yes, uncontested. Disc goes to the receiver in the end zone for a goal. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before in my life.
No, and we absolutely have to highlight Haley Belier just cleaning up everything in that point and carrying the weight of that play with help from some of their teammates. Fitz coming down with an excellent grab. Noelle doing everything in her power to secure the goal, making them foul them to try to stop it. That's the energy Soar needs to keep pushing in this fourth quarter. And again, we now have narrowed the score, Seattle leading 14-11, but that is 3 points in a row for Soar without no Seattle goals in the fourth quarter, actually.
It is the exact start Oregon needed. Doesn't matter how they've gotten there. And I can't tell you because there's no way I can explain that point ever again in my life.
Which I will say as well, the wind is definitely now a bigger factor in this game. I think you could obviously tell from the shape of those throws popping up in the air And out in the distance, I'm looking at some dark storm clouds that I think I see rain dumping in. So hopefully it misses the stadium. But again, both of these teams certainly play in quite a bit of rain.
Yeah, just behind the camera here on the stream, trees and flags are waving in the background. Seattle doing a nice job creating a lot of room to complete passes. Fitzgerald almost makes the bid. And a nice little reach to a blind defender, but it's too far out into space. And Monk is not quite ready for it, and Seattle gives Oregon the ball back. Can the streak continue in this quarter? When Torres is going to try to kick it off. Dangerous reset there. Turns out okay.
Like you mentioned earlier, we believe Soar is out of timeout, so now we need to see this D-line be able to do it on the other side. Wow. I don't know if that's coming through on the cameras, but there is an incredible... Oh, no, I thought that was thunder. It's probably an airplane. I apologize.
There's something coming.
There's something coming. I got maybe a bit more distracted than our players are out here.
Again, two Midwesterners here.
Yes.
We know the sound.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen out here, so never mind.
But something is in the air here, including the crowd here. Lots of voices propelling this game forward. Call downfield. It's going to slow things down.
The Seattle handlers are doing a lot of heavy lifting here, moving the ball, and I have to imagine that is due to some pressure coming downfield from these Soar defenders.
Yeah. Seattle stall rising. Finds their receiver and finds a gap. It's Sue who has flipped their role. And after a million throws and a healthy amount of time off the clock, Seattle has stopped the Oregon run. And they keep their lead at a nice little gap here. They are up 15-11.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised at all that that hard-fought point was finished with Kaufman to Sue, two major contributors to Tempest all season long. I think when things get hard for the Seattle team, which Soar has done a really nice job of making it hard, those two are often the ones that the team is looking to end the point, make it happen.
And I think that's the second kind of away pass goal Sue has caught. I love when handlers just flip that script and create something different, a different look for their team.
Right.
Frequently, your defender won't be expecting you to keep pushing down there like that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if Soar was intentionally attempting to push Sue out of the handler space. They are just so powerful in that position. But yes, they absolutely can go downfield and make an impact as well.
Oregon's going to need someone to make an impact downfield. Luke gets a nice under to the sideline to create a gap, but the throw and the cut aren't quite connected, and neither was that one, but Seattle denies the Soar Callahan. So they look to get on their own break train here in the fourth quarter. And we are under 3 minutes here, as that last point took a while. And Seattle misses on the deep shot, but they connect on pushing Oregon way downfield, which is just as impactful here.
Again, if I'm Seattle, I'm not that mad about that. We've only got a little bit more than 2 minutes left in this quarter. So field positioning and making Soar have to work and use that clock time is absolutely still to Seattle's advantage.
Yeah, and a ton of Oregon cutters really trying to push downfield. Luke was down there, after the gainer to Peterson. And Posey, I think, worried about the sideline coming at her quick. Goes off their left hand, not quite enough. And tick-tock goes the clock.
I think
Seattle
you're right.
has a break chance, and they are going to use their last timeout of this game.
Yeah, I definitely would confidently call that an uncharacteristic drop
Yes.
for Posey. So I think you are correct. Just not quite enough space there.
Yeah, I like this call from Seattle here. Get fresh players in. You can just keep eating the clock with every pass.
Yeah, this is a really good opportunity for Seattle to really close the door for Soar. And conversely, I think Soar might need to do something a little bit non-traditional, out of pocket, something to surprise Seattle and create some pressure, because they can't just let them dink around between the handlers and take their time. They need to earn something to have a chance of keeping this effort alive, which is looking more and more insurmountable with 1 minute and 47 seconds left.
We're entering record-breaking history here if they were to do it. And mathematic impossibilities here also.
You're on the statistics train today, Bobby.
That's where my brain's at. I couldn't tell you why. Thinking about all those playoff possibilities here if Oregon was to win this game, doing all the calculating.
It is always an interesting point of the season, seeing how things shake out and seeing how the little tiny differences in a game can absolutely change the fate of a team.
Yeah, every point played this season kind of building up to a couple of moments here in this game for both teams involved, and the Colorado fans at home also as they prepare to play this weekend. And even in their own end zone, Seattle is happy to throw little passes here, completely unbothered by how far away they are from the scoring end zone. And as the pressure mounted there, nice throw from Sue to break past the level, but a bit too high here. Oregon back with the ball, about a minute left here. They need to start pushing it towards the end zone here. And another bailout catch. This time it's Peterson. And once again, the disc just right out of the edge of Osborne's reach in Seattle. Understand the assignment here with this last group that came in after that timeout. Take whatever space is available. Try to just keep the ball moving. They once again give it back, but we are under 30 seconds here. And my math is telling me that Seattle is done in here, but the season, of course, does continue beyond this game and this point. Can Oregon piece something together here as the wind starts playing some real tricks on everybody, including the disc there that's going to lead to, unfortunately, a lot of contact as everyone's looking skyward for the disc.
Yeah, I think with the disc floating up in the air like that, you've just got a lot of players looking up and running into a space. I don't know if that was necessarily initiated by the defender in that instance. But we will see how the players resolve this. But either way, the clock, I think, went off before the foul was called.
Agreed, yep.
So the options here, well, either Soar will keep the ball and have the chance to score or not. Or, depending on where the timing played out, Seattle might get a chance to put in a final score here. So, call went to the observer. They did rule no foul. And based off of the player movement here, Seattle is going to get one last chance to get a goal in this game.
Yeah, and suddenly what made this game feel so strange, the slow pace and the long points, has suddenly turned into a valuable asset for this Seattle team. We're going to take one more opportunity to add a point to the scoreboard and add to their nearly ludicrous point differential on the season. And they are going to walk their way into a playoff berth here. And it won't. Oh, and I think there's going to be a foul call to keep this game going. The fans are cheering a bit as we all get some extra frisbee here.
Something I will say, we've had some calls here in the last seconds of the game, but I think you can really see, even though maybe the fate is set here, how much these players still care about this point that someone looking in from the outside might go, why does it matter? But I think it's a point of a pride and point of importance going into the latter part of this season. And with that, Seattle does manage to secure the goal and secure a spot in the WL playoffs. Congratulations to Seattle, and also congratulations to Colorado Alpenglow. They are also going, and that sets the fate for the Northern Division.
Yeah, and the rain and the clouds set in quickly on the Soar season, but not to dampen anyone's spirits too much, as they have clearly taken a large step forward this year. They've won a couple of games. They're putting on great shows here for this home crowd. And as, the weather turns for the worse and the season runs into its logistical end, there's more frisbee left for both of these squads. Plenty of great stuff still available in front of them. And let's not look past this wonderful game here. A lot of great stuff happened. Caitlin Osborne stepping up and filling that big role for Oregon, and just a ton of Seattle players making crazy plays. One of the funnest games I've certainly ever been a part of. And that'll do it here for us in Portland. For my wonderful production staff, for Danny Runzo, I am Bobby Goff. This has been Oregon Soar hosting Seattle Tempest, and we will see you next time.